the shotgun snap. He'll drop back. Pocket closes. His pass too high and incomplete for Heath Miller. There's a penalty flag.
They call him Vontaze Burfict.
It was Antonio Brown, the intended receiver, and they're going to call unsportsmanlike conduct on the hit around the head.
That was the Bengals radio network call of the call that started quite the end game in the AFC wildcard playoff game Saturday night on CBS. The Fox Sports rule analyst, longtime compadre of mine on NFL Total Access. We used to go back and forth as host and VP of officiating as he was at the time for the NFL, Mike Pereira. How are you, Mike?
I am good, Rich. How are you?
I'm fine. Let's start with that Berferct hit. Properly called?
Absolutely, no question. And it kind of shocks me when I hear some people in the media saying that, and former players that saying that it wasn't a foul, and for Pac-Man Jones to say it was an acting job. If there's ever a foul for a hit on a defenseless receiver, which in my opinion was a deliberate shot, I mean, that's it. I mean, there would have been more hell to pay if they didn't call it than there is for making the call.
So it does appear, that it is a shoulder to the helmet hit. What is the exact rule here that gets called?
The exact rule is that if a receiver is in a defenseless position, and especially when you're talking about an incomplete pass here, this is a pass that was overthrown. I could even make a case that this was late, but if he's a defenseless receiver, you cannot make contact with the head or neck area with your helmet, shoulder, or forearm. And you can't lead with the crown of your helmet anywhere. You can't hit him even in the sternum with the crown of your helmet. But this was the classic shoulder to the head hit. And certainly, and I know, listen, I'm sympathetic on how difficult it is to play defense, but the onus is 100% on the defender. The rule even says that the defender is responsible for hitting the receiver in the head or neck area, even if the receiver adjusts his position or cuts, does all that stuff to brace for the contact. 100% liability is on the defender, and that was a classic. Hit, an illegal hit on a receiver.
So then there's an issue with whether you're a runner or not. That appeared to be the case with Giovanni Bernard getting hit in the chops by the crown of Ryan Shazier's helmet. Not only was there no penalty called, they decided it was a fumble on the play after it was reviewed. Should there have been a penalty called on Ryan Shazier on that play, Mike?
I mean, that's one of the things that the league is looking at today. I still don't think it is, because when they brought in, this is the crown of the helmet rule that was brought in 2013, and I was against the rule that was brought in because it was really designed for, when two players are lined up against each other like two rams with their heads down. It was for that type of direct contact. It wasn't for, when a player was sideways and yet, in this case, he turned around, spun around after making the catch and was clearly a runner. The issue was that this rule was going to be so hard to officiate, and that's why when they brought in the rule, there was two called in 2013. There were none called in 2014, and there have been none called in 2015. And I just don't see it as the classic lineup, two guys face up on each other and one guy lower in the head and making contact with the crown of the helmet.
But I thought that was for a running back, that a running back can't lower his helmet and hit a defender. I thought that's why that rule was in place, because to me, so basically you could just use the crown of your helmet and hit somebody in the chops as long as you consider, and that's legal, as long as somebody's considered a running back.
That's correct. Absolutely.
Why?
As not as lined up well. I mean, that's maybe a discussion point, because what you just quoted me really there is the college rule, is the targeting rule. If you're not defenseless, in many of the situations you can use your helmet and make helmet-to-helmet contact, but what you can't do is line up a guy that's coming directly at you and lower your head, and that's the new crown of the helmet rule. And I know the rule doesn't specifically say that you have to be lined up directly at each other, but if you listen to all the interpretations that were put out, it was for that direct contact, and that's why they said it didn't apply inside the tackle box, that if it was inside the tackle box within 3 yards of either side of the line of scrimmage, it's not a foul, and that's the type of contact that they were talking about. There had to be open field and two guys headed directly at each other. Now, I don't, at least not going to like the contact because that's vicious and it's to the head. And they may look at it and say, it's a fine. I think there were 2 fines issued this year, even though they weren't called. But, to me, it wasn't the classic interpretation of the rule when it was brought in, yet I could see the competition committee looking at it and say, hey, at all costs, we almost want to go to the targeting rule and eliminate any helmet-to-helmet contact.
Mike, can you hold on? I need to take a 1-minute break. We'll come back and talk about